Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me here on the Royal House of Ra. I am your host, Ramses Khufu El Ra, and today's show is episode 31, The Rise of the Macedonian Kings. So this period, is the Greco-Roman Period. This was the period in which the Greeks had ruled Kemet at this point. At this point as well, Kemet is no longer known as Kemet, but known as Egypt. This is where Egypt replaced Kemet. Now, this line was the line of Alexander the Great. There was 3 kings from the Macedonian line who ruled Kemet, and then after that, the Ptolematic Dynasty, in which Cleopatra and I would say about 15 kings of the Ptolematic Dynasty was named Ptolemy. So now, to go further with this was when Alexander was conquering the known world. He was going into Persia, Minor Asia, and other vast territories. Excuse me. Then he spread towards Kemet. And then he was seen as a liberator when he came to Kemet at that time, because Kemet was ruled by another foreign entity, which was the Persian Empire, in which Alexander the Great defeated the Persian Empire and basically took over their territories. And we'll go into further what happened with that. But before we began the show, I'd like to I hope all of you had a great weekend and looking forward for a great week. Also, I'd like to give a thanks to my supporters who support the show here, who subscribed, who shared, and who liked. Please continue your support of the show. Please hit that like button. That also helps with the algorithm of this show. And also hit the subscribe button. And hit that notification button so you know when new shows appear. That also supports the algorithm of this show. We're coming to the close of this great dynastic, what I call it, my Pharaonic series. But today we're going to discuss about the very end of Kemet. We're going to discuss about the Macedonian rulers, the first Greek rulers of ancient Kemet, or Egypt, as some would call it, especially Egyptologists. And also we're going to go into talking about the Ptolemaic Dynasty, which I'm going to divide it into 2 parts, because it's about, I would say, about 15 rulers of this dynasty. 15 to 16 rulers of this dynasty. So I'm going to split it into 2 parts. Part 1 would be next Monday, and part 2 would be the following Monday, and that would be the end of this series. But let's get into today's show and talk about the Greek rulership of Kemet, and how Kemet ceased to be known as Kemet and became Egypt. Excuse me. Okay, so let's get into this. When Philip II was assassinated in Macedonia in 336 BC, his 20-year-old son Alexander took up his father's intended attack on the crumbling Persian Empire. Marching and fighting southwards over the next few years and onwards through Asia Minor and the Levant, Alexander divisively defeated Darius III at Issus in 333 BC and entered Egypt in 332 BC. This is where I call it Egypt. No, I no longer call it Kemet at this point. Making his way to the oracle of Amun in the oasis of Sawa, he was hailed as the god's son, Pharaoh incarnate. The Egyptians looked upon him as a divine being and savior. At the mouth of the Nile, he founded Alexandria, the first and greatest of the many cities that were to bear his name. Although his sojourn in Egypt was short, his influence was immense and lasting. On his orders, restorations and repairs were carried out at the temples devastated in the Persian attack of 343 BC. At Luxor Temple, the Holy of Holies was rebuilt, and the best reliefs of Alexander in Egypt carved on its outer walls show him offering to Amun-Min. Egypt was now truly part of a much wider Mediterranean world of culture and religion, and could no longer hide within the sheltering cliffs of the Nile Valley. From Egypt, Alexander moved into Asia, where in an extraordinary series of campaigns he overcame first Babylon and then Susa and Persepolis. Within just a few years, he had extended his empire all the way to the Indus River. Alexander died of fever in Babylon in 323 BC and was succeeded by his half-witted half-brother Philip Arrhidaeus. Philip left a relief on the outside wall of the granite central shrine at Karnak of the priests of Amun, carrying the sacred barbecue of the god on their shoulders. He was murdered in 317 BC. Alexander's posthumous son by his Persian wife Roxanne, who became Alexander IV, was similarly dispatched together with his mother in 311 BC by Cassider, now general of Europe. Although he was dead, Alexander IV is listed as nominally ruling from 317 to 305 BC, but it was Ptolemy, son of Legos, who was the de facto king. Okay, so let me go into, because I should have mentioned this at the beginning. Let's go I'm going to mention when this Macedonian kings reigned in Egypt. Their dynasty started in 332 BC and ended in 305 BC. Alexander the Great reigned from 332 BC to 323 BC. Philip Arrhidaeus reigned between 323 to 317 BC, and Alexander IV 317 to 305 BC. So that was that of the Macedonian kings, and that was a little insight of what they were about. So when Darius III was defeated, the Persian king Darius III was defeated by Alexander. Alexander basically pushed his empire all the way to the Indus River. But then he went into Egypt. The Persians, when they ruled Egypt harshly. They were very harsh rulers. They destroyed some of the temples. They committed some, some atrocities, but they were just tyrants. So when Alexander came in, when the indigenous saw Alexander, he came in, he was hailed as a liberator. And with African culture, we're very spiritual. So, they, within the gods of Amun, they saw him as the son of the god of Amun, and they went from there. But he didn't stay in Egypt for that long. He was there, he did his thing, then he went forward to conquer more territories. And as you know, he died in campaign in Babylon. So this is the beginning of the Greek rulership of Egypt, starting with Alexander the Great's line, which is the Macedonian Kings. Next week, on Monday, that would be on Monday the 9th. Yes, so Monday the 9th at 5 p.m. Central Time, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 4 p.m. Mountain Time, and 3 p.m. Pacific Time. We're going to do part 1, which would talk about the Ptolemaic Dynasty, which the first pharaoh of the Ptolemaic Dynasty was Ptolemy the First, who was a general under Alexander III. And when Alexander he was known as Alexander III, but also known as Alexander the Great. When Alexander the Great died, there was an infighting with his generals about who should rule Alexander the Great's vast empire. And that when Alexander the Great died, his empire was separated amongst his generals. Ptolemy was a general who basically took over Egypt and became a pharaoh and started his dynasty, which is known as the Ptolemaic Dynasty. And there was, give me a moment, I can tell you at this point, there was about, let's see, we got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 16 rulers of the Ptolemaic Dynasty. That include 15 pharaohs named Ptolemy. Then the well-known Queen Cleopatra the Seventh. Everybody know about her, and Julius Caesar. And then Queen Bernice the Fourth. So we're going to go into that. So we're going to divide it into 2 parts here. So part 1 of the Ptolemaic Dynasty will be next Monday on the 9th. And we'll discuss from Ptolemy the First to about probably Ptolemy the Seventh. And then we'll discuss the others at the end of this reign. So thank you for tuning into today's show. I hope you enjoy. Please remember to hit that subscribe button and to hit the like button and share the content. Enjoy the rest of your evening and stay blessed and God bless. Take care.